All right, so buckle up, everybody, because today we're diving headfirst into a story that's got the whole world talking.
Mm-hmm.
Elon Musk, Germany, and a political party, causing quite a commotion.
Yeah, it's really a fascinating look at just how much influence a single person, especially someone like Elon Musk,
Right.
can have on a country's political scene.
Like you don't see a tech billionaire jumping into German politics every day, do you? We've got a whole pile of news articles and expert opinions to dig through here. And honestly, some of this is pretty wild. We're talking about Musk openly supporting a pretty controversial party, German universities bailing on his platform, and even murmurs of possible election interference.
That's a lot.
It is.
What's interesting is this isn't just some theoretical online debate either.
Right.
Musk's actions, especially his support of this AfD party, they're having very real consequences over in Germany.
Yeah.
And could even reach as far as the future of Europe as a whole.
So let's break this down, shall we? First off, who exactly is this AfD party, and why is everyone so riled up about them being connected to Elon Musk?
Okay, so the AfD, that stands for Alternative for Germany.
Okay.
They're a far-right political party that's been gaining traction in Germany over the past few years. They're known for their nationalist, anti-immigration views, and some of what they believe has actually been labeled as extremist by German intelligence.
Whoa, okay, so they're definitely not your average political party then.
Yeah.
So how did Elon Musk get mixed up with them?
Well, it all started with a bunch of tweets where Musk straight up endorsed the AfD.
Really?
Told his followers to vote for them in the upcoming German elections. He even went as far as to say the AfD was the only way for Germany to avoid, total economic and cultural collapse.
Wow, that's pretty bold, coming from someone with as much global influence as he has.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So it was just tweets, right?
And it didn't stop there.
Oh, no.
Musk went ahead and hosted a live audio interview with Alice Weidel, the AfD's chancellor candidate, on his, social media platform X, the one that used to be Twitter.
Right.
During the interview, he doubled down on his support and basically agreed with a lot of their controversial views.
So he's really giving them a megaphone and broadcasting their message to millions around the world.
To his millions of followers, yeah.
That's a huge deal.
It is, and the German parliament's actually looking into whether that interview was basically an illegal party donation because he owns the platform,
Right.
It really makes you question where the line is between personal opinions and corporate power and campaigning in politics.
Yeah, it's like some crazy political drama playing out online, and it just keeps getting more intense. Now, I'm guessing Musk's endorsement didn't exactly get a warm welcome in Germany.
You guessed right.
Yeah.
The German government has actually accused Musk of meddling in their election, although whether that's, legally wrong is up for debate. Chancellor Olaf Scholz even went public and said, "Don't feed the troll directly to Musk."
Oh, wow.
Which kind of shows you how frustrated and divided people are over this whole thing.
Okay, so the German government's pushing back. But what about the people themselves? How have they been reacting to all of this?
It's a mix, really.
Yeah.
Some admire his, entrepreneur spirit and what he's done with technology and all that.
Right.
But others are seriously worried about his politics and the damage his influence could cause.
It sounds like this is tapping into some real tensions and anxieties in Germany right now.
Yeah, for sure. Germany, just like a lot of places, is struggling with economic uncertainty, societal change, and just this feeling of political polarization.
Right.
And Musk's involvement has become like a focal point for all those anxieties.
Now, one of the most drastic things we've seen is a bunch of big German institutions ditching Musk's platform X. Why are they doing that?
So several German universities, important institutions, even the highest criminal court there, they've all said they're leaving X. They're worried about Musk's political stance, obviously his support for the AfD, and just the direction the platform's going under his leadership.
So it's more than just disagreeing with his views. They're taking action and abandoning his platform entirely.
Right. They're worried X could turn into a breeding ground for hate speech and misinformation, especially with all the changes to how content is moderated and how the algorithm seems to be boosting right-wing content.
That's a pretty strong statement.
It really is. It says a lot about how social media is changing and the growing distrust people have in platforms like X, especially when they seem to be aligning with or even amplifying potentially harmful ideologies.
And all this goes way beyond online arguments and social media drama.
Yeah.
Musk's involvement in Germany gets even more complicated when you think about his company SpaceX and their dealings with the Italian government.
Here's where things get really interesting.
Okay, I'm listening.
SpaceX, Musk's space company, is in talks with the Italian government to provide internet and communication services using their Starlink satellite network. This deal's worth billions of euros, and, well, let's just say it's raised some eyebrows.
Okay, so we've got billions of euros, satellites, international deals. What's the problem here?
So there are multiple concerns.
Oh.
Some worry about national security and how much influence Musk could gain over critical infrastructure if his company handles sensitive communications for a European country.
So it's not just about internet access, it's about who controls it and what that means for national security and even international relations.
Exactly.
Got it.
Then there's the competition aspect. The EU is building its own satellite network called IRS.
Interesting.
Partly as a response to Musk's increasing dominance in the space-based internet world. They want to make sure Europe can stand on its own and doesn't become reliant on a single company, especially one led by someone as, let's say, unpredictable as Elon Musk.
It's like a whole new space race, but this time it's a billionaire entrepreneur versus the entire European Union. Talk about high stakes.
Totally. And it shows how crucial space-based technology is becoming, not just for science, but for national security, economic competitiveness, and even the future of the internet itself.
All right, so we've got Elon Musk shaking things up in German politics, sparking outrage, causing institutions to ditch his platform. And to top it off, his company's in the middle of these massive negotiations that could completely change space technology and international relations as we know it.
Yeah, it's a messy web of interconnected problems.
It is.
And it really brings up some big questions about the role of tech billionaires in global affairs, the power of social media, and what's going to happen to democracy in this digital age.
Now, you mentioned before that Musk and Weidel said some pretty controversial things during that live interview, especially about history.
Oh, right.
Let's get into that a bit more, shall we?
So, during that interview, both Musk and Weidel made statements that were just plain historically inaccurate, especially when they talked about how the AfD is being treated by the media. They compared it to how Hitler suppressed dissent, which a lot of historians and political analysts found really disturbing.
Yeah, that's a pretty loaded comparison to make. Sounds like they're trying to draw parallels between what the AfD is going through now and the oppression faced by those who oppose the Nazis.
Exactly. And Weidel took it even further and claimed that Hitler was actually a communist.
Really?
Which is a claim that historians widely refute.
Wow.
These statements are really causing people to worry about the AfD's ideology and whether they're trying to rewrite history for political gain.
Right, it's a tactic we see a lot with far-right groups trying to clean up their image, distance themselves from past atrocities, and appeal to a wider audience.
Exactly.
This whole situation's got so many layers, and it's clear that Elon Musk jumping in has stirred the pot, so to speak. But let's change gears for a second and look at how all of this is playing out in the media.
So the media landscape in Germany is a fascinating beast, very complex, and it plays a massive role in shaping public opinion and driving political discussion. And in this particular story, the media has become both a battleground and a key player. One name that keeps coming up as we look at the media's role in all this is the Springer Publishing House.
Springer, you mean that huge media company that owns a ton of newspapers and websites in Germany?
Yeah.
Like the one that published that opinion piece by Musk endorsing the AfD, right?
Yeah, that's the one. Springer is a major force in German media, and they definitely have a big impact on public opinion.
So how does Springer tie into this whole Elon Musk and AfD situation?
Well, what's interesting is that Springer, and especially their CEO, Matthias Döpfner, seem to have a bit of a thing for Elon Musk and his ideas.
Oh, really?
A few years back, they even gave Musk their super prestigious Axel Springer Award, which is kind of like their version of a Nobel Prize for media and tech.
So it's like a mutual admiration society between a media mogul and a tech billionaire. And I bet this admiration includes their political views too, huh?
There are definitely some similarities. Springer, just like Musk, seems willing to boost the AfD's message, even when people criticize them for it and accuse them of normalizing far-right ideas.
You know, it makes me think back to that opinion piece Musk wrote supporting the AfD.
Right.
That wasn't just some random article buried in the back. It was front-page news in one of Springer's biggest newspapers. That's a massive platform to give to a controversial party like the AfD.
It was a bold move, no doubt, and it caused a lot of arguments within Springer itself.
Oh, really?
Some journalists and editors felt that publishing Musk's piece was dangerous, that it legitimized a party with extremist links and potentially harmful views.
So even inside Springer, there's disagreement about how to cover the AfD and whether giving them that kind of platform is responsible journalism.
Exactly. It's a miniature version of the bigger debate happening in Germany about the AfD and where the limits of acceptable political discussion are.
It's like this one decision by Springer to publish Musk's piece just blew everything wide open and exposed all these tensions about free speech, the media's responsibility, and the rise of far-right ideologies.
And then it gets even more complicated when you add in the personal relationship between Döpfner and Musk.
Oh, okay.
Some reports say that Döpfner actually encouraged Musk to buy Twitter, which is now X, and even offered to help him run it.
Wow, talk about connections. But it makes you wonder if those personal ties are influencing decisions at Springer and maybe even skewing their coverage of the AfD.
It's a legitimate concern. It raises those questions about media bias, but with a modern twist. It's not just about subtle wording or framing anymore.
Right.
We're seeing open endorsement and amplification of a specific political agenda by powerful media figures who are close friends with those pushing that agenda.
This whole thing with Springer and Musk is a perfect example of how the lines between traditional media, social media, and political influence are getting blurrier and blurrier. It's like they're all feeding off each other and creating this echo chamber where certain voices get louder while others get silenced.
And that's dangerous for a lot of reasons. It makes people trust institutions less, weakens democratic processes, and creates a space where misinformation and manipulation can thrive.
You know, it reminds me of all the conversations we've been having about populism and the rise of the far right around the world. Are we seeing this kind of blurring of lines between media, technology, and political influence in other countries too?
Definitely a global trend. We're seeing similar things happening in different countries, though the specific players and platforms might be different. But the underlying patterns are often the same. Powerful people and institutions using their influence to control the narrative and promote their own goals.
It's like everyone's fighting for attention. And in the process, it's getting harder and harder to tell the difference between information, entertainment, and propaganda.
And we, as people consuming all this information, are caught in the middle of this mess, trying to make sense of it all and figure out who to believe. It's not easy.
It's like we're constantly getting bombarded with information from every direction, and it's hard to know what's true or who to trust.
It's understandable to feel overwhelmed. We're living in this age of information overload where anyone with a smartphone can be a publisher, and truth and lies are constantly mixed up.
So what are we supposed to do? Just give up and admit that we're living in a world where everyone has their own version of reality?
Absolutely not. It's more important now than ever to equip ourselves with the tools of critical thinking and learn how to be media literate so we can navigate this complicated world effectively.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me how to survive this information overload.
Well, there's no magic solution, but there are some key things we can do to become more careful and thoughtful about the information we come across. And that's what we're going to explore in the last part of our deep dive.
All right, so we're smack dab in the middle of this information overload, feeling bombarded left and right, and trying to figure out who we can actually trust. Where do we even start to make sense of this mess?
Yeah, it can definitely feel overwhelming. But the good news is you don't have to be like a media expert or a political whiz to develop a healthy dose of skepticism and start thinking critically about the information that's coming at you.
Okay, that makes me feel a bit better. But how do we actually do that?
Yeah.
What are the tools we need to sharpen our critical thinking skills and get better at navigating the media?
Well, one of the most powerful strategies is to always consider the source.
Okay.
Who's giving you the information and what's their motivation? Are they trying to just inform you, persuade you of something, or even straight up manipulate you?
So like with Elon Musk and the AfD, we have to ask ourselves, why is he so invested in this particular party? What does he gain if they succeed?
Exactly. And when it comes to media outlets like Springer, it's super important to look at who owns them, their political leanings, and any potential biases they might have. Are they showing all sides of the story, or are they pushing a specific agenda?
It's like those About Us sections on websites. You want to know who's behind the information before you just believe it blindly, right? Right.
Absolutely.
But sometimes, even if you know a source might be biased, it can be hard to catch those sneaky ways they try to influence your opinion.
Oh yeah, bias can be really tricky. It often shows up in subtle ways, like how they frame things, the words they choose, or even which stories they decide to cover and which ones they just ignore. That's why it's important to get good at spotting those little details.
So how do we get better at recognizing those subtle forms of bias?
One good tip is to really pay attention to the language being used. Are there any loaded words or phrases meant to make you feel a certain way? Are they using generalizations or stereotypes as if they're facts? These can all be warning signs that the information is being presented in a way that's meant to sway your opinion, not give you an objective view.
It's like those clickbait headlines designed to grab your attention and get you all worked up without actually giving you the full story.
Exactly. Another crucial strategy is to look for evidence. What facts and data are they using to back up their claims? Are there reliable sources cited? Or is it just a bunch of opinions and guesswork disguised as news?
It's almost like being a detective, right?
Yeah.
Sifting through the clues and looking for any inconsistencies or missing pieces of the puzzle. But honestly, it sometimes feels like every source has an agenda, and it's tough to know which facts to trust.
That's a good point, and it highlights why it's so important to get your information from a variety of sources. Don't just rely on one place. Try to get perspectives from different sides, even ones you might disagree with.
I know that can be tough, especially since we tend to naturally gravitate towards information that confirms what we already believe. But it's so important to break free from those echo chambers and open ourselves up to different viewpoints, even if it makes us a bit uncomfortable.
You're right, it's not always easy, but it's crucial for getting a more well-rounded and informed understanding of complicated issues.
So we've talked about considering the source, checking for evidence, and diversifying our information intake. Any other tips for navigating this maze of information?
Be careful of emotional appeals. If something's designed to make you feel strong emotions, whether it's fear, anger, or excitement, it might be trying to bypass your logic and manipulate you.
So if something feels like it's pushing my buttons a little too hard, maybe I should step back and take a closer look at it with a more critical eye.
Exactly. Slow down, breathe, and engage those critical thinking skills. Ask yourself, what's the evidence? What are the sources? And what's the real motivation behind this information?
It's like giving your brain a workout, strengthening those critical thinking muscles so you don't get tricked.
That's the main takeaway here. It's not about becoming cynical or distrusting everything you see and hear. It's about developing a healthy skepticism, getting better at critical thinking, and actively shaping your own understanding of the world.
So in this deep dive, we've uncovered the complex relationships between tech giants, social media, political agendas, and the media landscape. We've seen how information can be used as a weapon, how narratives can be manipulated, and how easily we can be influenced if we're not careful.
Absolutely. But we've also seen that we're not helpless in this digital age. We have the power to question, analyze, think critically, and demand better from those in positions of power and influence.
And at the end of the day, the choices we make about the information we consume and the stories we believe will shape not only our own understanding of the world, but also the future of our societies and democracies.
So moving forward, let's all remember to be critical, be curious, and be engaged. And keep asking those tough questions because the answers are more important now than ever.
And that wraps up another deep dive. Thanks for joining us, everyone, and we'll catch you on the next one.